I'm going to tell you a story about John. John lives in rural Queensland and has been driving all night. He is involved in a life-changing accident and suffers severe multi-trauma, including a spinal cord injury. John is taken to his local hospital, but then where does his journey take him? John is treated within a local trauma service before a plan is made to transfer him to a specialised rehabilitation centre. However, due to a lack of bed space, he is instead sent to a mixed rehab unit after spending an extra 3 days in the acute ward. This mixed rehabilitation unit is not ideal for John. It lacks the ideal staffing ratios needed for his care and rehabilitation. It lacks the specialised equipment, and the staff are not confident or familiar with his specialised care needs. His rehabilitation stay is prolonged, but his walking and mobility training is not as intense as the evidence base supports it needs to be. So his function plateaus, and he is transferred back to rural Queensland where he does not have access to the specialised rehab program that he needs. His long-term goals of returning to live independently are not achieved. This is an acute example of the inefficiencies in our healthcare system, including the lack of equity based on your geographic location, leading to worse outcomes and significantly higher costs of care in both the short and long term. The allied health workforce in Australia is stretched thin, with a recent study showing a critical need for more physiotherapists. It is therefore imperative to ask the question, are we working as efficiently as possible with the resources that we already have to provide the care needed for our most vulnerable patients who have the most to gain?
One way to address this problem of reduced number of rehabilitation professionals available is by using robotic trainers. And our mission is to enable the delivery of cost-effective gait rehabilitation physical therapy services across the nation and worldwide. We're working on top of more than 20 years of evidence that the technology is safe. It can achieve similar outcomes to traditional therapy. It can be cost effective, and it doesn't really steal jobs, but rather empowers the end users, the therapists and the people with disabilities, to have another tool to do rehabilitation in the way that fits them best. The issues that we currently have is that the initial investment is very high. These pieces of equipment require a lot of space. They can be complex and very intimidating to operate and use. And fundamentally, it also requires a significant change in the role of the therapist, and that's one of the reasons why it can be very difficult to take up into usual care. Robotic trainers come in many different types of devices. The more traditional and older ones are called fixed robotic trainers, so they're very big and bulky, and they tend to be expensive, and they can be very intimidating, not just for the clinician, but also the person with disability to use it. The newer devices are overground robotic exoskeletons, so these are a little bit more portable and allow us to train in more naturalistic environments, but they still require a significant amount of time for clinicians and people with disability to learn how to use them. And as you can see in the pictures, also they still require a large number of therapists to one patient. Finally, we also have robotic bodyweight support systems, but these require large infrastructure changes, so they have to be able to hang from the ceiling, and they still require lots of therapists to a single patient. So the way we're proposing to try to attack all of these or some of these problems is by using co-design. And co-design means that we bring different stakeholders in the process of rehabilitation and make sure that when we're going through the user needs, the requirements, the different iterations of the solutions, that we're considering all of the issues coming from different perspectives and making sure that as we iterate, we try to solve these issues piece by piece rather than arriving to a solution that's technically feasible but might not be clinically implementable.
Our value proposition is the ability to deliver cost-effective gait rehabilitation physical therapy services for neurological patients with minimal personnel. We want to achieve this through a product that is a modular robotic system. We want to innovate with technology that is simpler but not simplistic. We are starting with an existing product, but we want to build version 2.0 in order to implement assisted needs control based on artificial intelligence and personalized musculoskeletal modeling. We want to make this device modular in a way that users can select the different modules in order to deliver the therapy according to the different goals of the patients and stages of recovery. We want to implement software routines in order to optimize the task difficulty and implement tasks such as walking, stepping, sit-to-stand, etc. Our customer segments are inpatient and outpatient rehabilitation units within hospitals and rehabilitation clinics in remote areas. We will reach our customer segment by providing dedicated assistance to translate this technology in clinical practice to help them improve efficiency of their services. We have the key resources to be successful with our product. We have advanced prototyping facilities, we have the research and the clinical facilities and the equipment to perform verification and validation tests. What we need now is professional staff to help us implement the rehabilitation treatments as dictated by the user needs, demonstrate this technology in a relevant environment by clinical trials, and disseminate and protect our intellectual property.
Our partnerships are key to our success in this project. On the research side, we work with and within some of the leading research institutes in Australia, including the University of Queensland and the University of Melbourne, as well as Habitek out of Griffith University, which focuses explicitly on the translation and adoption of technologies into clinical practice. On the clinical side, we have established relationships with hospitals at Metro North, Metro South, as well as St Vincent's Hospital down here in Melbourne. And on the commercial side, we have an established collaboration agreement with Fourier Intelligence, who are the leading provider of robotic technologies for rehabilitation worldwide. It is through Fourier Intelligence that we envision the commercialization of our technology, using a pathway which we successfully used before as part of the EMI project. Under this model, the university or the research institute owns and protects the IP and licenses it to the technology provider. In this way, we can use and leverage the technology partners' existing distribution and manufacturing channels, ensuring our technology gets to market the quickest possible way. Our team has an ideal mix of skills and experience to tackle this problem. Alejandro is an experienced developer of rehabilitation technologies in both research and commercial environments. Camilla is an experienced gait biomechanist who does a lot of work in the co-design and translation of clinical technologies into clinical practice. I myself have spent years designing and building exoskeletons, and I also have a background in the development of technologies and other technologies for rehabilitation. Dennis is an experienced physiotherapist, as well as a clinical educator who also goes on to educate the future generation of physiotherapists. And finally, Hang is an experienced and valuable voice of the customer. Hang himself experienced a spinal cord injury and has gone through the arduous rehabilitation process which we seek to improve. We believe, therefore, that we have the ideal mix of experience to tackle this problem and make a real difference in the lives of people.